there, ladies and gentlemen. How are you today? Your old friend Sam here. You know, I usually spin a good story for kids and gentlemen and ladies alike worldwide. But today, I'm going to introduce you to my friend Leonard. Leonard the weather guy. He's going to tell you a story should make you laugh really good. I know it's one of my favorite stories of his. So, without further ado, I'll introduce Leonard the weather guy.
Hi. Thank you for that introduction. I'm going to do this story for Gary Bass and his crew.
Hey Leonard, did you say Bass? We're Bass?
No, wrong Bass, guys.
Oh, sorry.
Now, this is the story about the time I took my Pinto around the mountain. I decided to take it around the mountain all by myself, which was not good sense. I should have told somebody where I was going before I went, but I wanted to go on an adventure, so I went. I jumped in my faithful Pinto. It was a Ford, but that doesn't matter for the story. According to the map, the road went straight down and connected back to the road to my house. So I was following that road, but there was a snowbank. So I decided I'll run the Pinto right through the snowbank, which really lacked common sense at that point. But I went for it anyway. And once you know it, I got stuck really fast in that snowbank. There was no getting that car out of that snowbank. I was pinned right on the top. So I looked around the car and I gathered up my possessions and my coat, put my coat on, and I discovered my friend George had stowed away. Who's George? Well, George is my cat. I don't know why George was in the car, but it was just me and George. And I had no flashlight, and it was getting dark. So I stuffed George down in my coat, locked up my car, and started walking back towards town. And all of a sudden I saw a little light, way off into the trees. And I thought, well, that'll be a porch light. I'll walk down there and make a phone call. Call my mom and dad. That makes good sense, right? So I started walking, just me and George. Down the hill. It was getting really dark. I could hardly see, I couldn't even see my hand from my face. It was getting so dark. All of a sudden I heard a coyote howl. Yeah, like that. And we kept walking and I told George, well, George, if the coyotes come, it's a choice between me and you. And it's been nice knowing you. So we kept walking. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I hit a barbed wire fence right across my middle. And it hurt, so I went, ah! Which made George freak out. And George stuck his claws in my chest, inside my coat. And he went, rear! So I went, ah! And George's claws dug in and went, rear! And I went, ah! And that made George go, rear! So I went, ah! And George went, rear! And I'd go, ah! And that made George go, rear! So I went, ah! And George went, rear! Well, this went on for about 3 or 4 minutes before we calmed each other down. Oh, it was terrible. I was hurting. I had cat claw marks all over my chest. But we managed to crawl through the fence and walk on down the hill. And turned out that porch light was a street lamp. And it was a lot further away than I thought, which really didn't help. I was tired. It was getting cold and dark. And we got down there to that street lamp. There was a house there. Wasn't nobody home. Nobody. So we walked down the road a little further, crossed the street, found a phone, and I called my mom and dad. I needed to learn some common sense. I needed a good dose of wisdom, and I bet Dad was going to give me it all the way home. I wanted to tell you this story because I was not using my wisdom. I was not using my good sense. I was just being kind of a silly little guy. I found wisdom to be in large quantity in the book of James, in my Bible, and in Proverbs as well. If you ever decide to go for a drive up to Huckleberry Butte, make sure it's in the summertime. Take your instruction book, a Bible, and a good map. And for goodness sake, don't take George. He's a lousy companion. Have a great day. Bye-bye.